If I could have everyone's attention, please. Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. I figured the only way to get you all here was to hang a few medals around your necks. But seriously, I look around at all of you here, and it makes my heart glow. I see us all being one family. Yes, we work in different studios, and we all have our differences, but we all have one common goal, and that is to entertain, to make people happy. Hollywood is a family, and it's built upon trust and loyalty. Trust and loyalty. Trust and loyalty. And loyalty.
Yep, that's right. That's William Fox, lying in a pool of his own blood on the side of a road. Now you're probably wondering how it got to all this. Well, it's a story full of twists and turns. But I'd really have to go back about 1.5 years. To October the 6th, 1927, when those pesky Warner Brothers released one of the most important movies in Hollywood history.
Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you, you ain't
Yeah,
heard nothing.
The Jazz Singer was the start of all this. So, hold on to your hats, folks, because like Jolson says, you ain't heard nothing yet.
Yeah, we've waited for our time to come, calculated everything we've done, we've upgraded. Now you can't outrun a champion. Now you're facing what? We're gonna stand on top with our hands in the sky. Gonna raise our cup to the stadium lights for the glory. For the glory. We celebrate with the city tonight. Hear the hometown cheer, it's the ultimate high. For the glory. We do it for the glory.
The late 1920s were boom times. The stock market soared to new heights, fueled by easy money and optimism about new technology. The first transatlantic phone call was made from New York to London. Pan Am started passenger air services from New York to Cuba. And The Jazz Singer, the first movie to show an actor talking with synced sound, was released by the Warner Brothers. It wasn't even a very good film, to be honest. It was a mediocre story about an aspiring nightclub singer whose father was pressuring him to be a cantor in a synagogue. And the acting was passable at best. And most of the film was actually silent. But then, Al Jolson opened his mouth and talked.
Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you, you ain't heard nothing. You want to hear Toot Toot Tootsie? All right. Toot Toot Tootsie, goodbye. Toot Toot Tootsie, don't cry. The little choo-choo train that takes me away from you. You don't know just how sad it makes me. Kiss me goody and then, ow, ow, do it over again.
The movie was a smash hit and signaled that talking pictures were here to stay. In an instant, the Warner Brothers went from second-rate film producers to major players.
I got a great idea for a picture. Except for, instead of dancing, there's talking. Oh, there's talking and there's animals.
Jack Warner knew that his brother Sam had handed them a gold mine. Now Jack had to strike while the iron was hot.
I don't care if you're halfway through filming. I want actors talking.
Jack ordered every Warner film in production to switch to sound immediately.
I don't know what they're supposed to say. You're the director. Figure it out. So go buy yourself a writer.
And not just a few spoken lines here and there. No, he wanted talking through the whole movie, no matter how much it cost.
It's Jack. Listen, I know you're almost done with the edit.
While Jack converted all of their current productions to sound, Harry went to work changing over their theaters. And that meant going back to Wall Street for more money to fund the switch. Only this time, it'd be much easier. Not only could Harry point to the recent success of The Jazz Singer, but he'd also become buddies with a Goldman Sachs banker named Waddell Catchings. And they realized their relationship could be mutually beneficial. Harry invited Catchings to join the Warner Brothers board as director of the finance committee, while Catchings opened the door to dozens of bankers itching to lend to the highly profitable movie industry. With a Wall Street insider on their board, banks were now falling over themselves to lend to the Warners.
I'm gonna need $2 million. I want to convert all the Warner theaters to sound.
And in the easy money days of the 1920s, Harry got the cash right away.
To think, 5 years ago, I was dealing with loan sharks paying 40% interest. And now look.
The Warners were now out in front and running full speed ahead. I mean, the rest of us were still reeling from the success of The Jazz Singer and the harsh reality that talkies were here to stay. I mean, imagine being William Fox. This guy had already developed his own sound technology, which was honestly better than the Warners, but he'd been cautious, only using it for newsreels.
Colonel Charles A. Lindbergh.
And now the Warners were the talk of the town. The irony of it all is Fox had just completed his greatest picture, arguably the greatest picture yet. It was called Sunrise, a song of two humans, and it was a work of art. Camera work was technically brilliant. The composition was like a painting come to life. I mean, visually it was 1,000,000 times better than The Jazz Singer. But for all its artistry and innovation, it was instantly outdated. Because no one talked. I could sympathize with the guy because I was going through the exact same thing. I just spent a fortune on my own masterpiece called Wings. It was an epic drama with unbelievable aerial photography. A tracking shot that lasted almost 30 seconds. and featured Paramount's biggest star, Clara Bow. We cast almost 4,000 soldiers, filmed for 8 months, and sunk millions into it. It was easily the most expensive movie made to date. But guess what? No one talked.
Wings is getting great reviews. It's selling out in 200 first-run theaters. I think this could be big, really big.
What about sound? What do you have in development?
Nothing.
Not one?
Maybe sound is just a gimmick. It might blow over.
If we're not careful, the Warners, they're gonna blow us out of the water.
I've been a fool to wait so long, but also prided myself on being first. First in features. I created the first worldwide star and the first vertically integrated studio. But now I'd have to play catch up, which wouldn't be easy. By 1927, we'd gotten to a point where we could move a camera anywhere and do anything. Sweeping vistas, breathtaking tracking shots, incredible stunt work. But throw sound recording into the mix, and all of a sudden, our hands were tied. Now, because of the camera's noisy motor, it had to be isolated from the microphones, locked off in a soundproof booth. Filming also had to move indoors. And instead of just being aware of where the light was, now actors were forced to stay close to the damn microphone that was hidden somewhere on the set. Suddenly, you went from silent movies where everybody could talk to talkies where everyone working on the set had to be silent. But audiences didn't care. All they wanted was to hear actors speaking. But while we were still figuring out how to make sound films, the Warners surprised us all by releasing their next big picture, The Lights of New York, the first all-talking movie.
Now, folks, we're going to have the Dancing Pirate. And believe me, boys, take it from me, they'll take it from you.
Jack had rushed it out. And even though there are only a handful of theaters around the country with the capability to show it, it was the most profitable movie to date, grossing 50 times what it cost. The Warners had never had cash to burn, but with another successful movie on the books and Wall Street's money tapped wide open, Harry was like an uncaged beast. He went on a tear, growing and diversifying the company. With a slew of films about to go into production, Harry knew they'd need more space to shoot. So, he bought another film studio, First National Pictures, and their 62-acre lot in Burbank. Now, you might recognize those buildings and that water tower. Warner Brothers still operates out of that studio today. The Warners then used their deep pockets to shoot their most extravagant film to date, a biblical epic called Noah's Ark. It had $1 million budget and featured a flood scene in which 600,000 gallons of water were released to purposely destroy the set. It was a far cry from the frugal pictures Warner was making just a year earlier. But Harry's ambitions didn't stop with movies. He wanted to build an entertainment empire. Warner's already owned the radio station, but Harry wanted to dive further into the music business. So he bought up record labels and music publishers that owned the rights to songs by the likes of Duke Ellington and Gershwin. Almost 20 years after joining Carl Laemmle's band of outlaws, the Warners had finally made it into the big three of Hollywood studios, just behind Paramount and MGM. And their stock was only going up. I knew I had to make a big play to keep the Warners from overtaking me. Luckily, there was one staring me right in the face. By now, it was all but certain that MGM was going to be sold. Whichever studio acquired it, it would be game over. They would be unstoppable. They'd get the gigantic MGM studio in Culver City, which was a 55-acre dream factory. MGM's huge roster of stars, and more than 2,000 of the most talented people in Hollywood, including boy wonder, Irving Thalberg. I knew everybody was going to make a bid, but I figured I was a shoo-in, since Lowe and I had been friends since our vaudeville days. So in my mind, the meeting with the Lowe family's executive, Nicholas Skank, was a mere formality.
Try this. It's 18-year-old scotch.
It's good.
I've decided. Once Paramount and MGM have merged, I'm switching to sound. All the stages first, and then the theaters will be wired. You know, I must confess, some of my favorite pictures are from MGM. Flesh and the Devil was incredible. To have Greta Garbo in Paramount, she'll be even bigger. And that goes for every star. Merger is good for everyone, right? Thanks for coming in.
So that was that. A done deal, right? Well, there was something that didn't sit right with me. Maybe it was his handshake. Or maybe it was the way he said goodbye. You see, I didn't know it then, but I had screwed up. Big time.
Once Paramount and MGM have merged, I'm switching to sound. To have Greta Garbo in Paramount?
I never told Skank what he would get out of a merger with Paramount.
And that goes for every star.
I didn't think to offer him anything. Not a fee, a cushy job, nothing.
Merger is good for everyone, right?
They say hindsight is 20/20, but that was just plain stupid. It's that attention to detail that's so important in this game. A small slip-up like that creates an opening for someone else to sneak in.
Top up?
Thank you.
I've taken the liberty of drawing up a contract. You'll be the chief executive officer of the new company, Fox MGM. And of course, there's also the matter of your commission.
How much?
Once the deal goes through, you'll receive $5 million.
Fox was smart. He knew that to get MGM, all he had to do was buy Skank.
So, do we have a deal?
We have a deal, Mr. Fox.
He was a genius. I mean, unlike me, Fox was never first in anything. He spent his whole career watching, waiting for the right moment to strike, so that he could fulfill the destiny that he and his wife had predicted all those years before. And just like that, MGM was going to be stolen from me. And I had no idea. I was way too focused on getting Paramount ready for sound. I knew it was here and here to stay. So I spent millions building stages that could accommodate sound. And then I took a hard look at my roster of actors.
Wasn't that a nice song? I like that myself. Well, let's see now. Where do we go from here? Ah, news item. Evelyn Leigh, noted English actress, arrives in Hollywood to make talkies.
I insisted that every Paramount star take a voice test.
Would you like to see Miss Leigh? If we hurry, we can just about get to the station in time to greet her as she comes in. Her train's due in about 2 seconds.
You see, until talkies, audiences had no idea what their favorite stars sounded like. But now, actors were being judged on their voices. As you can imagine, this sent a panic throughout Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, this little lady will entertain you with comic impersonations of other celebrities.
Paramount's biggest star, Clara Bow, passed the test, although her Brooklyn accent probably surprised a few people.
I gotta catch a train back for the evening show, you know.
Other actors fared far worse, unable to adjust to the demands of sound films. Even the ones who made it through saw their careers suffer. Poor Douglas Fairbanks. He'd risen to fame playing athletic swashbucklers. But confined to a soundstage, his talents were wasted and his star dimmed.
Okay. Could I just see that, please? Thank you.
Mary Pickford took far fewer roles too, focusing most of her attention on transitioning United Artists to sound. It was the end of an era, as every studio head embraced sound as the future. Well, every studio head except one.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I love it. Now, who do we put in it?
At MGM, it was like the sound revolution had never happened.
All right, I'll talk soon.
Louis B. Mayer focused on making the glossiest, most impressive films. Talkies were rough. They were too real. Mayer preferred to offer audiences a shiny fantasy, which was something he felt was best achieved without sound. But one thing was for sure. His obsession with everything being squeaky clean was taking a toll on his #1 producer, Irving Thalberg.
I think The Crowd is Vidor's best picture yet. I'd go so far as to say it's the best picture to come out of MGM.
I don't like it.
What?
There was a shot of a toilet.
And that's why you don't like it?
The whole thing is self-indulgent, and it's depressing.
It's a work of art, a portrait of real life.
People don't go to the pictures for that. They can get that at home. People want to be entertained. Make something that can make the audiences smile. I know you. You'll think of something brilliant.
Mayer knew what worked for his pictures, or at least he thought he did. You gotta give Mayer a break, though. He was under an enormous amount of pressure. I mean, forget about the fact that his company was being sold, and that he had no control over who was gonna buy it, or what they would do with him once they owned it. Mayer had an even more pressing problem. It all started when he bought himself a piece of beachfront property in Santa Monica, and he wanted to build a beach house. But architects and builders told him the process would take at least a year. Mayer was having none of that. Right on MGM's lot, he had dozens of designers, tradesmen, and laborers. So, he informed them that they were to stop building movie sets and start working round-the-clock shifts building his beach house, to which they said no. Actually, their union said no. You see, since the beginning of the moving picture business, the studios had complete control over their employees, from the stars and directors at the top to lowly stagehands and messengers at the bottom. We controlled how much they earned and how long they worked. But while studio heads like us had gotten fabulously wealthy, studio workers had not. In fact, across America, the rich were getting richer, while the working class and the poor were stagnant or falling behind. Studio workers were tired of being paid pennies on the dollar to the big shots. And so by the late 1920s, labor unions were rising to power in Hollywood. And executives like Mayer were none too pleased.
And I'll tell you that Warner Brothers turkey, the jazz singer, has caused nothing but trouble. So now we have stage actors who are camped outside, who think they can become movie stars because they have a voice. Nobody wants to hear you talk. But it's not just them. I have unions from the East sniffing around, trying to sign up actors, writers, directors. We should create our own.
Our own union? How would that work?
No, more like an exclusive club. An academy, where we give out medals and awards every year. Really feed their egos. That's the way we're gonna stop them from joining any unions.
Sorry, I have to talk to the actors.
So, Louis B. Mayer went ahead and created the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. The way it worked was anyone who wanted to be in it agreed to negotiate labor disputes through the Academy, which was controlled by Mayer and the other studio heads, rather than through a union. In exchange, there was a yearly awards banquet where the stars got told how great they were. And the award was a gold statue of a knight with a sword piercing a roll of film. I heard Mayer liked to think he was stabbing the unions right through the heart.
Nice work. Find how much it'll cost to make them gold-plated.
Mayer had gotten around the unions, but he still had bigger problems.
Is the rumor true you're selling to Paramount, or is it Fox?
Don't believe everything you read in the press. Am I seeing you, Irving?
What was that all about?
Nothing much. He wanted to know about up-and-coming productions.
I don't trust him. He should be called Skunk, not Skank.
What Thalberg didn't say was that Skank thought he was behind MGM's success, not Mayer. Mayer was realizing pretty quickly that he had less power than he thought. But if he couldn't stop future owners from firing him, maybe he could stop the sale from going through.
All right, I'll talk soon.
Using what power he did have. You see, Mayer had been slowly building a name for himself in the Republican Party, even funding Herbert Hoover's presidential campaign, with the hope that someday he might be able to call on Hoover for a favor.
Am I interrupting?
No, no, come in. Be one of the first to hear Hoover speak.
If it shall appear that while I have had the honor of the presidency, that I have contributed to the part required from this high office, I shall have done my part in the world.
I'm switching all Fox theaters to sound. And then, Fox Talking Pictures. Or should I say, Fox MGM.
I had a meeting with Harry Warner today.
Really?
He wants to buy MGM.
I thought we had a deal.
We did. The Lowe family just wants to make sure it's getting the best possible price.
Okay. So, what will it take to seal the deal?
10 million.
10 million commission.
If you can agree to that, it's yours.
I'll need time to raise that kind of money.
You have until May.
And so William Fox had to go back to Wall Street one more time to get more cash to help him achieve his destiny. Total control of Hollywood. We didn't know it at the time, but the stage was being set for a chain of events that would alter Hollywood and the fortunes of its moguls forever. I know. It's like the climax of a movie, right? The first thing that happened was Mayer's Academy of Motion Picture Sciences held the first Academy Awards. It was a simple affair by today's standards. It wasn't held in a big theater, but in a ballroom at the Roosevelt Hotel, a joint which happened to be co-owned by Louis B. Mayer, Mary Pickford, and Douglas Fairbanks. All of Hollywood royalty turned out. It was probably the first time that many heavy hitters were in the same room at the same time. Sure, it was the night to give out awards. But even more, it was the night to reflect on how far the movies had come in just a few decades. For just one night, we could put our rivalries and grudges and power plays aside and enjoy ourselves. Right around the same time, William Fox finally secured funds to close the MGM deal. And he was ready to ascend the throne as the undisputed king of Hollywood.
If I could have everyone's attention, please. I'd like to thank you all for coming out here tonight. I figured the only way I can get you all here was to hang a few medals around your necks. But seriously, I look around at all of you here and it makes my heart glow. I see us all being one family. Yes, we work in different studios, but we all have one common goal, and that is to entertain, to make people happy. Hollywood is a family, and it's built upon trust and loyalty. And when I say this, I speak for everyone at MGM. And of course, our chief executive, Nick Skunk. I mean, Skank. Nick Skank. Let's get to the awards, shall we? The great, the wonderful, the queen of Hollywood, Mary Pickford. We'll hand out the first award.
Thank you. The first award is a special one. To Warner Brothers for producing The Jazz Singer, the outstanding, pioneering talking picture which has revolutionized the industry. Congratulations, Jack.
This one's for you, Sam.
For Best Cinematography, the award goes to Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, Fox Pictures. Outstanding Picture goes to Wings, Paramount.
We have one more award tonight, folks. Best Unique and Artistic Picture. And the winner is... Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and please drive safely.
On July 17th, 1929, William Fox was in a car crash on Long Island. His driver was killed, and Fox, he lost over a pint of blood. But somehow, he survived and spent 3 long months recovering in the hospital. Things would never be the same. You see, Mayer had gotten real cozy with the new administration and was able to persuade the Justice Department to delay the sale of MGM by slapping it with an antitrust suit. Mayer had stopped the sale in its tracks.
I want you to call off the dogs. If this merger goes through, I'll make you head of Fox MGM Studios.
It's quite a lot of responsibility.
I'll pay you $1 million. You'll be the highest paid man in America.
And Skank?
He'll report to you. That's good.
And that was it. Fox got his empire, and MGM would forever be known as Fox MGM. Right? Nah, this is Hollywood. They teach screenwriters that the worst thing you can do is to have an outside force determine the outcome of your story. It's contrived, it's unbelievable, it's a cheap ending. But this was real life. And real life doesn't follow the rules. You see, just a few months later, the stock market crashed. In an instant, Fox lost almost his entire fortune. Suffice to say, the deal was dead. To be honest, we were all in real big trouble. Because every single one of us had taken Wall Street money to expand. And as soon as the market crashed, so did our companies. Our drive to be the biggest, to outdo our rivals, had become our downfall. Fox Studios went into bankruptcy. 1 year later, Fox himself was forced out of his own company in a hostile takeover. And a few years after that, a company called 20th Century would rescue the failing studio, forming 20th Century Fox. But William Fox was out of the industry for good. Guess his wife wasn't so good at predicting the future after all. Universal had been losing ground for years. But the Great Depression signaled the end for Laemmle. Almost 30 years after he opened his first little Nickelodeon in Chicago, Laemmle was kicked out of the company he founded. United Artists also fell upon hard times, and Mary Pickford quit acting for good in 1933. But the company pulled through, and Mary remained an executive until 1951, producing dozens of films over more than 3 decades at the studio. As for Harry and Jack Warner, luckily, Harry's endless efforts to diversify and expand allowed them to weather the crash. But 3 years into the Depression, Warner Brothers had still lost nearly $20 million. So they did what they do best. They got scrappy. Harry slashed costs and they began making low-budget, gritty gangster films like Little Caesar.
And don't you be forgetting it either.
And eventually rebuilt the Warner Empire. Over at Paramount, things didn't end as well. Lasky was booted first. Then the bankers brought in a reorganization team to take over the company. And that's when they stripped me of my ownership power. You know who made it out just fine, though? It was the one bastard who was most worried about his job before the crash. That's right, Louis B. Mayer. You see, Mayer didn't own MGM, so he couldn't lose what he never had. And because Mayer so stubbornly refused to invest in sound technology, MGM wasn't nearly as over-leveraged as the other studios. In fact, after the stock market crashed, MGM really came into its own.
Oh, Hank, couldn't we go back just for one more year? Back to those opera houses and town halls, those cheap hotels, their lobby comics.
Well, Mayer eventually gave in to the sound revolution, but only because he realized that movie musicals were the ultimate in escapism.
Don't bring a frown to old Broadway. You've got a clown on Broadway.
With the Depression in full swing, audiences needed an escape.
Where to fly? A million lights, they flicker there. A million hearts beat quicker there.
The Broadway Melody was a huge hit for MGM and earned the distinction of being the first sound film to win Best Picture. MGM would go on to be the industry's premier studio for years to come and would usher in the golden age of Hollywood. They eventually let me back in to Paramount, not as the owner, but as an employee. That was brutal. It was like riding in the back seat of your own car. But these days, I prefer to look on the bright side. I mean, through it all, we accomplished something incredible. You see, we arrived in America with names like Lazer Mayer, Wilhelm Fuchs, Hirsch Wonsel, and Adolf Zucker. We were outsiders, but we fought our way into the upper echelons of American business. We pulled a nothing industry out of the slums.
That's what we do. We make universal entertainment for everyone.
And turned it into one of the most powerful beacons of American culture in the world. Let's face it, when you think of America, you probably think of Hollywood. And it's all because of people like me, young, scrappy immigrants.
We're not quitting.
And people with nothing to lose.
Who's going to write it?
I will.
Glenley, Fox, the Warners, Pickford, Mayer. We blazed the trail.
Harry, it's sound on film.
Gambles that cost some of us everything. But our companies endured in one form or another. I may not know what the future holds for them, but I do know that the art form we created, the dream we created for everyone, no matter who you are or where you come from, that will last forever. So I'd call that a happy ending after all.